and welcome to the League of Women Voters of Whidbey Island Candidates and Issues Forum. My name is Wendy McLean Stone, and I've been a League member for 15 years. Tonight, I will be your moderator for this short but very important Candidates and Issues Forum. The year after a presidential election is always kind of a forgotten election year. However, local elections are actually very important and considered by some to be even more important than federal elections. It's these local elections that can have a really huge impact on our day-to-day living experience. So I'm really delighted that you guys are here. This year, we have two Coupeville Town Council positions open. Position number 5 is where Patricia Powell is running unopposed, and position 4, where we have Christine Crowell and Brett Smith. Pretty close. See, I can't look at it because my brain was going. Anyway, we're delighted to have them here. Unfortunately, Christine could not make this evening due to a family health concern. So Carol Pulliam is going to read a statement from her for this purpose. Before we begin to record these statements, I also want to say a big thank you to the town of Coupeville. These proceedings tonight are being recorded, and they will be available on our local access channel 10 later in the week. So this important information, I hope you'll pass on to your friends. They can tune in probably Friday or early next week, and they will be able to watch these proceedings on our local access channel. So the videographer today is Renee Mulholland, so thanks very much, Renee. I also want to say thank you to our League members, Joyce Peterson and Dolly Lister. They are going to be our timers for this evening. And, okay, so tonight we'll hear a statement from each candidate, but we will not take questions from the floor, or we won't have questions at all. The League has a policy called an empty chair procedure. And when one or more candidates are unavailable to respond directly to questions, each candidate may make a statement or send a representative to read a statement. And this is in support of our nonpartisan stance that seeks to establish a level playing field. So, on that, we are going to go ahead and let these people make their statements. And ordinarily, I would have tossed a coin to see who goes first in the nature of the level playing field. However, I don't have a coin, so I am holding up a finger. A very nice one, I want to tell you. And would you please choose a number between 1 and 5? 2. 1 is the number that I was. So, Brett, you may begin.
Good evening, my name is Brett Smith, and I'm running for Coupeville Town Council, position 4. I'd like to begin by offering my deepest sympathies to Ms. Crowell and her family. Though we are competing for the same seat, I have not and do not consider her my opponent. Rather, I regard each of us as alternatives, offering ourselves and our service to our friends, neighbors, and fellow citizens of Coupeville. I know that we both love this town we call home, and that we both want nothing more than to see each and every one of our fellow citizens' lives made better. To Christine, I'd like to say I was heartsick to hear the misfortune that has befallen your family and the struggle you're facing now. I wish you and yours whatever peace, comfort, and strength you may find. You are in my and my family's thoughts. To the League of Women Voters, thank you for affording us, the candidates, this opportunity to introduce ourselves. Civility and collegiality are in terribly short supply in the world of politics today, but this forum sets a standard for both, to which we can all aspire. You have my gratitude. Why am I running for town council? I'd like to answer that question with a story. 9 years ago in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, my wife and I and our 2 small children loaded our entire lives into a single rented truck. We drove 5 days from there to Whidbey Island in our new home, Coupeville. We arrived on a Saturday evening and we were so tired we dug the mattresses and blankets out of the truck and went straight to sleep. The next morning we rose, ate, and faced the daunting task of unloading everything we owned from the truck. It had taken the better part of 2 days to pack it in. Still weary from the road, we nevertheless tucked in and began. Not long after we'd started, 2 men in a pickup truck drove by on Main Street. They slowed as they passed our driveway. They turned the corner just a few dozen yards up the street and walked down the sidewalk back to our new house. When the older gentleman said, "Can we help?" I thought he was joking, or at most that they'd help me lift the heaviest pieces down and move them into the house. But those 2 men stayed with us and helped unload the entire truck, boxes and sofas, bed frames and bookcases. In 2 hours, the truck was empty and I was near tears with gratitude. To my great regret, I do not remember those men's names, but I remember their character and their generosity. They formed an impression in my and my family's minds of what it meant to be from Coupeville. They gave shape to the spirit of our new home. In the 9 years since that day, the impression those 2 men made on me has only been strengthened. In the bosom of this little town, my wife and I have raised our children, built a business, and learned what a community can be. We have worked to repay the kindness those men and others have shown us in big ways and small. I stand today and hope that I will earn your vote and that you, my friends and neighbors, will give me the opportunity to do a little bit more. If elected, I pledge to you that I will seek evidence-based solutions to the challenges that face our town, that I will put the health, safety, and security of you, my fellow citizens, first, that I will hold sacred responsibility of the public trust, and most of all, that I will listen to all who come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Carol will read a submitted statement from Christine Crowell. You may begin.
Yes, my name is Carol Pulliam. I'm the Secretary for the League of Women Voters of Whidbey Island, and I live in Oak Harbor, so I will not be participating in this election. First, I apologize for being unable to attend tonight's discussion. My husband's illness and hospice care requires my presence at this time. During our last election cycle, I, like most people, was discouraged by the nature of discourse around the election. Candidates did not discuss issues, and respect for another's opinion didn't exist. Instead, we heard insult after insult, and most of us tried to find a way to do the least damage possible when voting. I feel that continuing to choose our leaders and to lead in this fashion hurts us all. Locally, disagreements around jet noise caused accusations of Coupeville not supporting the Navy and potentially influenced grant awards. I see a huge lack of communication around these issues when lines are drawn and accusations levied early in discussions. I decided, therefore, to try to do my part in our little town to change the conversation. I believe that good decisions are made only after considering many options and opinions. To do so, we must listen to each other and respect each other's thoughts and opinions, even if we don't agree. When I try to understand the reasoning behind your opinion, I learn about another piece of the puzzle. We must find a way to solve the problems of our town in a way that does not try to oversimplify issues and result in name-calling. For each issue, we must first agree on what is the exact problem to be solved. Then we can consider possible goals in addressing issues. And when we can identify goals, we are then ready to consider various ways to achieve these goals. Often we seem to lose our way in this process and get frustrated and angry with each other. The town of Coupeville must address the issue of water quality and contamination of our wells. I'm aware that our mayor is working to address this problem. To find a solution to this problem, we need more information about possible solutions. We need to learn if drilling another well or wells is feasible. We need more information on the efficacy of filters and the cost involved, and we need to consider the underlying aquifer. What can we do without damaging our future water provision? Unfortunately, while many of us are disturbed and frustrated with this problem, jumping to the quickest answer will most likely not provide the best solution. Other issues that need attention are Finding a way to balance Coupeville's tourist economy with the island's support and need of the Navy. Keeping good lines of communication open with the county and other cities of Whidbey Island. Dealing with the influences of increasing numbers of Navy personnel and their families. Maintaining the safety and peace of Coupeville with a limited law enforcement budget. Addressing what will probably be an increasing need for low-income housing. I don't claim to have the answers to all of Coupeville's problems. I do promise that I will give my all to addressing problems by listening to all of Coupeville's citizens with respect and a genuine effort to understand all points of view. Thank you.
Thanks to both of you. Please give them a big round of applause. As I explained before, we won't be taking questions. However, I know that after this forum is finished, that Brett would be happy to answer to any questions that you might have of him. And now we will move on to the second portion of our candidates and issues forum tonight. This was the candidates part. The next part is the issues. We have on the ballot, on our ballot, a Island County Fire Protection District Number 5, also known as Central Whidbey Island Fire and Rescue, has a general obligation bond of $7,376,000 on the ballot. And so we have two gentlemen who are going to speak for the bond and a gentleman who will speak against the bond. So I'm going to put their names up, and please thank Brett and Carol. John Roberts, who will be speaking against the bond, and Chris Geiger, who will be speaking for the bond. Once again, I neglected to bring our deck of cards, which allows these gentlemen an opportunity to randomly decide who goes first. So once again, I'm going to hold a finger, some fingers up behind my back. So you all can see. This time I have this many. Chris, would you please choose a number between 1 and 5?
3.
Thank you. John?
5.
Okay. 3 wins. Yes. So these gentlemen will have 5 minutes to present their information. Chris is going to go first, and he will be speaking in favor of the bond. And then when he's finished, John will have an opportunity to speak for 5 minutes, and then we'll be happy to open the floor to questions, and I'll tell you about how that works when we get to that part. So, timers, ready? Okay. Chris, they will probably give you a 1-minute warning as you near the end and 30 seconds. So, and then of course there's a big stop. Okay, feel free to begin when you're ready.
Thank you for the invitation to speak and the opportunity to endorse the Central Whidbey Fire Bond Measure. Ironically, an organization that only exists to help other people is now asking for our help. Central Whidbey Fire Rescue is asking us to approve a bond measure for 2 vital capital improvement projects. The majority of the bond money would be used to renovate and remodel the main fire station on Race Road. The station was built over 25 years ago as the administration center for the all-volunteer department. At the time, it met their needs. It was basically a garage for fire engines with a meeting room. But it has limited office space. The office manager and the deputy chief have to share a small cubicle, limited storage space, and no living quarters. They don't even have showers for crews that can work up to 2 days in a row. There are literally desks in the apparatus bay for crews to sit down and write reports after an alarm. Since the station was built, the district has expanded services to meet the increasing call volume by hiring 11 full-time employees. Since then, the station has become outdated, inefficient, and even hazardous. The on-duty firefighters that work 24 to 48 hours at a time have to live in a trailer behind the fire station. There is no table to sit down to eat. There is only one restroom and shower for both male and female firefighters to share. Volunteers that want to work an overnight shift are forced to sleep in a chair. When an alarm comes in at night, the crew must get up, dress, leave the trailer, walk across the parking lot, punch in the combination door to the fire station, get on the engine, and then respond to the emergency. Your emergency. The bond money would remodel and expand the current fire station to provide living quarters and other safety and health improvements to the building, such as a fire sprinkler system, a physical fitness room, a decontamination room, and a fire engine exhaust removal system so the firefighters aren't forced to breathe diesel fumes. The district also needs to replace 3 fire engines that were purchased about 25 years ago. Now, that may not seem like a long time. It may not seem like that's very old. In fact, I think I have a pair of socks that are 25 years old. But ask yourself the last time you saw a 25-year-old ambulance or a 25-year-old police car. And would you even think of getting on a jet airliner that you knew was 25 years old? If a school bus, a dump truck, or a UPS van breaks down along the road, nothing really terrible will happen. The kids may be late to school, the mail may be late getting delivered, but nothing very horrible will result. I used to work on helicopters in another lifetime, and I was always frustrated when I would report for a shift when they would tell me that the helicopter was down for maintenance. And so one day I got brave and I asked one of the mechanics, why is our helicopter always down? And he said, the helicopter is down for 3 hours of maintenance for every hour of flight time. And I said, but why so much maintenance? And he looked at me kind of funny and he said, it can't fail. Fire engines are helicopters. They can't fail. They have to get to the emergency that they're responding to quickly and efficiently. The district is fiscally responsible and even has won awards for its budgeting and financial reporting. But even though the district has no debt and budgets a certain amount of money into a capital improvement fund every year, it does not have the resources to make these critical improvements. That's why they're asking for our help. I recently retired and now have to live on a fixed income pension. So the last thing I want to do is pay higher taxes. But I also want the men and the women of Central Whidbey Fire Rescue to have the basic tools they need to do their jobs, to keep us safe. They need and deserve basic housing, a secure and safe work environment, and fire engines that don't break down. Therefore, I'm asking you to join me, the fire commissioners, and the fire chief in supporting the ballot measure next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And now speaking against the bond will be John Roberts. John?
Good evening. My name is John Roberts, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters for allowing me to speak against the bond. Just a quick background about myself. I've lived here my entire life. I have been a volunteer firefighter since 1982. That includes here in, at that time, District 5 at Washington State University, and back here again, and for the last 21 years with the City of Oak Harbor. My opposition to this really is the main issues with regards to the fire commissioners for placing this large of a bond and magnitude on the ballot for us to vote for. And the reason I have come to that conclusion is really this, that as Chris just said, a very bleak picture has been painted to the citizens with fear. Fear that the fire insurance rating will rise. Fear that your homeowner's insurance will rise. Fear that the level of service that is expected will not be maintained because the fire apparatus are old, as Chris just mentioned. Fear that the fire department can't respond because they don't have state-of-the-art facilities. I too work out of a fire station in the City of Oak Harbor now that is more than 25 years old. They have apparatus that are as old as the apparatus that are in Central Whidbey Fire and Rescue. It's about maintenance and taking care of things. While all these issues are important, instead of getting wrapped up in the details, I'd like to look at 3 specific issues. The fire insurance rating is my first. This is a rating that is given by to the fire department by the Washington Survey and Ratings Bureau. And according to Central Whidbey's website, the town of Coupeville receives a rating of 4, and the county residents a rating of 6. The higher the rating, the higher your homeowner's insurance is. All of us in the fire district, all of this in the fire district could work to improve this by increasing staffing. Staffing for volunteers first and career personnel second. The district acknowledges that obtaining volunteers is an ongoing initiative. There are other areas that have been addressed in the website, however, the bond only addresses fire apparatus. Fire engines are the noted exception in the bond to be addressed through the Washington State Ratings Bureau. And again, that's a sort of thing. Yes, it has to maintain, they have to be maintained, they have to work, you want them to respond when you want, but the age of them does not matter so long as they are in good working condition. All these things will not change your homeowners in policy if the bond is approved. The second thing I want to look at is staffing. Chris mentions that there are 11.5 full-time career firefighters. Volunteers currently number 17 and 10 part-time employees who are spread out over 3 shifts. This means on any given day, 4 additional part-time employees in conjunction with career staff could respond along with any available volunteers to your incident. There's a total of 26 total people that can volunteer and or a paid career that may respond. Why is that important? Historically, volunteer members for the Central Whidbey Fire and Rescue have dropped, and that is not an issue with the fire department, that's an age demographic of where we live. People are getting older, people are living older, this is just the nature of our area. So the implementation of full-time career staff was important and will continue to be important as we go forward. Therefore, I look at this as a catch-22. We need more people, but we need more staff. I'm sorry, we need more facilities or better facilities. I look at it as a fact of thinking there's going to be more volunteers, that they build it and they will come is not a mentality that's going to pass the muster. And finally, the last thing I'd like to talk about is response times. And this has to do with apparatus, this has to do with new facilities, that has to do with people. And essentially it comes down to, because of the rural nature of where we live, the average response time is approximately 10 minutes. If you were to have a medical incident and you cut 30 seconds off that 10 minutes, that is not going to do any help. You need to cut 5 minutes off. And the only way to do that is to have facilities that are located in other areas other than in the one Station 53 that, Station 53 that exists. So financially, I don't see how adding bedrooms or showers or things of that nature are providing with the level of service that we expect as volunteers.
Thank you, John. Thanks to both gentlemen. Let's give them a round of applause. Yes, so where you are, just going to have a couple of questions. Oh, okay. Now we have a way that we manage questions when they're taken from the floor in the league. So I'm going to tell you how that goes. It goes like this. Each question from the floor must be asked within a 1-minute time limit. Questions may be directed to one or both of the gentlemen here. However, if a question is directed to one candidate, the other speaker will have an opportunity to respond to the same question or to comment on the question. Speakers' responses are timed to ensure fairness, so each of you will have 2 minutes to respond to a question. The speaker may not confer his response time to any other individual, and response time is reserved for the speaker only. The moderator will make an effort to provide each speaker with equal opportunities to respond first and second. This, of course, is somewhat dependent on the questions that arise. So, to summarize, questions from the floor, please, should be asked within 1 minute, and each of you will have an opportunity to respond to questions within 2 minutes. So, are there questions from the floor? Yes, ma'am.
Do I understand that that we're operating on a bond now that is retiring, so that we are being asked for a new bond. Is that correct?
So are you directing that to both speakers?
I am.
Okay. Okay. Do you want that repeated, or do you have a clear picture?
I think I understand. Keep in mind, I don't work for the fire district. I'm a citizen. My understanding is they are debt-free. There is no bond. So they are working off of a
Chris.
cash basis. Basically a pay-as-you-go. Every year, they put money into a capital improvement fund, an account, so that they can make capital improvements. And my understanding is there's about $1 million in there, but not much more than that.
Thank you.
John, would you like an opportunity to respond?
Another way to look at that, actually, no, I think that's a good answer.
Okay. I'm going to do this and wander a little bit, so it's easier. Oh, okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions? I see some puzzlements. Yes, Brett.
So, if we were to hire, I'll give this to Mr. Roberts. If we were to hire or contract more volunteer staff with the current facilities, where would we put them?
So let's talk about volunteers, because I think that's the most opportunistic thing with regards to increasing staff levels, because it costs much less than a career firefighter. Housing them, so currently the way the district is laid out, we're sort of in the almost north end of the district here in Coupeville, and Green Bank South would be the south end. Station 5-3 is practically centrally located within the district. We have a station here in Coupeville, Station 5-1, which is a newer facility full of apparatus. It does have sleeping quarters, cooking quarters, meeting quarters, but is not manned as a day station. It relies on 8 volunteers to respond there during the time frame when a call comes in. So in my experience, there are other ways to use volunteers or part-time employees to man stations such as this one. There's also a station on Day Road as well that has similar appointments to it. So with regards to specifically your question, I see that it's an issue of volunteers, which is an issue in itself.
Chris, would you like an opportunity to respond?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, and imagine how the fire chief feels when he would like to have more volunteers volunteer, and there's no place to put them. There's no place to sit down and eat a meal, and you have to sleep in a chair overnight if you want to. So I do think it's an important question to answer, and approving the bond would at least allow them a place to have a valid volunteer program. Right now, they essentially have no place to put volunteers at the main fire station.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments? Yes.
So I'm just trying to understand that, I understand at the main fire station there isn't room, but Mr. Roberts made a comment about there being room available at other locations. Are we not using that room at the other locations, or I'm a little confused about some of the comments.
You were directing that for clarification too. Well, you'll both have a chance at it, so go ahead.
So to answer your question, yes, there are facilities that are available. It is up to the Fire Administration of Central Whidbey Fire and Rescue to determine how they want to locate their paid crews, which operate on rotating shifts. And currently, the way that that is done is out of Station 5-3. Ironically, the highest property and life loss possibility is located right here in Coupeville because of the density of the population. And so, yet we rely on, for fire, we rely on volunteers only, and for medical, we rely on the EMS service through Whidbey General in conjunction with Central Whidbey Fire and Rescue, who has EMS services as well. And so I'm just throwing that out there, that I drive past a fire station that currently is not being used to its fullest potential and is significantly newer and is full of apparatus and can, in some fashion, I would assume, be used.
Thank you. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, John's absolutely right. The facility could house volunteer firefighters or career firefighters. I've never been a fire chief, but I've known quite a few. Fire chiefs have to play the odds. And what the current fire chief is doing is saying, even though the majority of the calls for his fire district are in Coupeville, 80% of those calls are medical calls. There's a staff paramedic ambulance at the hospital. So the fire chief is playing the odds that I'm going to keep the fire engine with the career firefighters at Race Road, which is centrally located in the district, even though the majority of alarms that comes in are for Coupeville. So he's actually strategically located that career fire engine in a better location to be able to serve not only for EMS calls, but also for fire responses. But John is absolutely right. The Coupeville Fire Station does have dormitories, a kitchen, showers. He's absolutely right.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, you may have a 30-second follow-up.
So with regards to that, and playing the field or playing your cards, that's a great way to look at it. Our EMS system through Whidbey General is essentially getting close to being taxed itself. So that card's going to drop here pretty soon. In addition, 2/3 of all calls are medical calls themselves, and with medical calls, time is absolutely of the essence with regards to that. So we're going to, in that look at it, we're going to say we're going to let fire go, but we're going to take care of EMS because we have EMS serviced by another entity.
Thank you very much. Yes.
I understand you said that there are sleeping quarters at the Coupeville Station, 5-1, and then I think you also said there were sleeping quarters at the station in Green Bay. Could you tell me how many firefighters would be able to sleep at each of those stations?
I didn't say anything about the Day Road Station other than what it was located. Coupeville has 2 bedrooms available.
Anything more? Okay, I guess it's just a bedroom count, right? Okay. Yes, one last one.
Is there a breakdown somewhere, how this money will be spent?
Central Whidbey Fire and Rescue has a very good website that has a lot of information. If you're planning on voting for this particular bond, I would definitely take a look at that.
So that's Coupeville Central Whidbey Fire and Rescue. And if you do a search, you should find it without any trouble.
In general terms, it's about $2 million for the fire engines and $5 million for the fire station remodel, in rough terms.
Thank you. Any further comments? Thank you very much, gentlemen. Please give them a round of applause for their questions. And I'm very glad that you came out, and I hope you had a chance to hear from you tonight. That actually concludes our evening. Thank you very much for coming. And I want to say thank you to the League members who helped out, and a special thank you to Snow Isle Regional Libraries, who did a beautiful job of publicizing these on their website. And Becky is our liaison with Snow Isle Regional Library. So thank you very much. So the League expresses their gratitude for Snow Isle. I want to just make one other comment. Our democracy really depends on individuals like yourself engaging in this process and exercising your right to vote, your right to use your voice in the form of your vote. Watch for your ballot, mark it, and mail it in promptly. The sooner it gets in, the faster we can count them, and then our system is much more efficient. Thank you so much for coming out. I commend you for your diligence, and go lead. I'm sorry, I had this one. Okay, thank you. Have a nice evening.